Okay. If we're going to be talking about 21st century parenting, who should be coming to talk about it? Should we invite a grandmother?
Nope.
Coming from a grandmother, that is...
A grandmother wouldn't know what to say.
Oh, really? Why?
Because she'll tell you how she was brought up and how she brought up her children based on how she was brought up. She doesn't know anything about...
technology.
So she won't even know how to police the children of today. You want her to come and talk about 21st century?
It's not Slate, have you?
It's Slate. It's Slate, please. It is somebody who can... relate with them that you should call.
So with these few words of Alero, she has been able to convince you and not confuse you that parenting in the 21st century is a dynamic journey shaped by a rapidly changing world. Add that to the digital age, which continues to redefine our lives. It leaves an indelible mark on how we raise our children, and that's just one aspect of this whole conversation. How do we talk to the children? What are the new rules of parenting? Because the rules have to change.
They say we have to listen to them. You know, when we were small, father or mother talks and you just, yes, daddy.
Yes, mommy.
Yes, mommy. Full stop. You don't talk back. You have no opinion.
Oh, God. Reminds me of something that Steve Harvey said. So he went into a shop and this little tot was arguing with the mom. He said, Mom, he said he saw the overwhelming situation of the mom and said, can I just borrow your kid for 10 minutes? I'm going to bring him back. And by that time, you can be sure you're going to have your boy, in good shape. Let's have this conversation this morning with Motolani Falabi, a family coach, teenage coach, as well as CEO, Praise Forward International. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Okay, is she enough to talk about it? 21st century parents.
Is she not one of them?
Now, 21st century parenting. Let me begin by asking you this. We had this conversation with one of your people in the entire family life community, and he was saying, or rather agreeing with us when we asked the question that some of today's parents themselves need parenting. How significant a challenge is that?
Someone goes to university, graduates, and thinks that the next thing to do is to get married with no proper training herself or himself, and then they get married, they become parents themselves, while they don't even understand what they want to do with their lives. They're not sure what marriage is before they talk of parenting, and they're in that journey. What do you expect them to do? Some of them were not even properly parented. Some of them parented themselves. So for someone who didn't go through proper parenting, who just grew up, life happened, I'm married, I'm parenting my own child the best way I know. So when I ask people who taught you about parenting, they say, nobody. I learned from my parents. Who taught your parents about parenting? Their parents. Who taught your parent? And before you know it, you're talking about someone in the, say, 17th century teaching you about parenting. When you have not grown yourself, how well can you grow up on the child?
Okay, for understanding, and perhaps by way of a background, because sometimes the facts are stuck in our faces, but we don't see them. What are the things that makes 21st century parenting peculiar as opposed to previous centuries?
I'll start from let me start from your generation.
Your generation.
Your generation. At that time, it was mostly the father who was working. Mothers are usually home.
True.
Because the economy wasn't as tough as this. Whatever the father brings in was enough for the family. So the mother had the responsibility of raising the children. Now, in the 21st century, economy is harder. Both individuals need to work to ensure that the family is well provided for. Nobody really is available for the children. So you're leaving the children to raise themselves. And oftentimes I hear religious individuals say, God will raise them. God will raise our children, forgetting that we have a responsibility, to these children. So you learned how to use technology. Your children were born with technology, and that's why you have a 1-year-old baby who can operate a phone. You have a 2-year-old baby who knows where YouTube is on your phone. If you hand over the phone to the child knows how to navigate the phone. Sometimes I know a mother who says, my 4-year-old child, every time I change my password, can decode my password and would unlock the phone. This are the generation of children that you're dealing with. So thinking that you would raise a child in the 21st century the same way you were parented, the dynamics were different. You had stay-home mom who was readily watching. You had community parenting. You had other people who were supporting your parents to parent you. But right now, the children are locked up in their homes. Nobody really is checking except maybe the help, so the driver,
So how does technology affect or influence parenting today?
Okay, so one of the things that had happened is parents had handed over their parenting responsibility to technology. Growing up when you're home, you're handy. You have things to work with. But right now, you want to get busy with work. You hand over gadgets to your child and say, oh, do you just get busy with this or watch the TV? And then this same parent comes back and say, oh, my child is hooked on the gadget. Who handed the gadget over to them? You did. Are there no board games? Are there no other activities that you can engage your children with? And then, of course, we also go on social media.
There's no going out to go and play 10-10 now.
These are activities that we need to, encourage. I had a parent, I was talking to the mother, and she has 3 kids, and she said, oh, they're always all playful, their energy. I said, let them walk. And the first day she tried it, in their estate, they walked around. She said by the time they walked back in, everybody went to sleep because they were tired. So, but when you keep them inside, they're all jumpy, they're tired of watching the cartoon. In fact, sometimes they're just jumping around the house and messing up there. Take them for a walk every evening. And then she did that. Number one, it was even good for them. And one of the, our daughter, the oldest, said, oh, Mommy, I like this activity because they get to see, the environment, get to see other children in the estates and, mingle with them. And by the time they are back in, they're exhausted. They really do not have energy to waste anymore. So parents also would not want to go online and see how some mother is training our child on social media, and then you take that as a template and then bring it home, forgetting the peculiarity of your own children. It wouldn't work that way. It wouldn't.
Let me, again, for background, I mean, she's just talked about the technology thing. How bad is it? I'm asking that question so that the parent watching now will know that she's not the only one going through this particular situation. You've been in this sector for a while. Yeah. You specialize in family life, but you are more focused on teenagers and all. How bad is the disconnect? What has caused it? Because you've also told us, and a good number of you in that space tell us, that the disconnect between parents and their children is so huge and very disturbing. How bad is it? It
is very bad. Very bad. Because a typical father, mother set out to go to work in the morning. You probably didn't even get to see your child before you set out in the morning because you're trying to avoid traffic. You want to get to work on time. Your child has a gadget. They go to school. They come back. The only thing they have to keep them busy is the phone. So they're constantly, regularly on the phone. What they're doing on the phone, is it supervised or not? We don't know because you have not put any restriction whatsoever on the phone. And even when you do, these children are quite smart. They know how to maneuver. So a mother would say, oh, my child is not on Instagram, but she has an account on your phone. But it's frozen, so you don't have an idea that there are certain apps that your child had downloaded on your own phone, but she had frozen it, so you don't know they exist there. So sometimes they won't create an account.
I'm sorry. Pause. For those who don't know, what does it mean to freeze an app?
It's hidden, but still on your phone.
How can I find it?
You have to pay for a masterclass for that one. Please go ahead.
people talk about it.
On my phone.
Yes.
The child puts an app and I am not aware.
No, you're
will
not
not
aware.
be able to find it.
Because
And that's
it's
one thing
present.
that a good number of parents are not aware of. That is one of the things I think you mean when you say that dynamics have changed.
It has.
Okay, so please continue.
So they can also have, say you have an Instagram account and you think that your child doesn't own one, but they can add another account under your account, but because you don't know how to navigate it, you don't know that they have an account under your account. Not necessarily under, but they can add another account on your phone and you're not aware of it. So and what this has done is there is no communication within parents. We're not talking about anything. So when you come back from work, you're already tired, you're exhausted. So it's understandable. You really do not want to now sit back and start, gisting with some child when your child already has a gadget. He's busy with the gadget anyway, so he really is not even looking at you. And then you feel, thank God, even I want to rest.
Have peace.
Yeah, because I'm exhausted. But you don't know what is happening in the life of the child. And that's why when parents come into our office and say, oh, my child is hooked on pornography or my child is hooked on drugs, these are symptoms of something. What is happening with the child? I had an 11-year-old boy who was hooked on pornography. And when I had conversations with him, he said, I'm bored.
11.
Why? He says, I go to school in the morning, I come back, I do my own plays, my assignment from school, and then we'll go to bed. That's weekdays, so I don't get time to watch. But weekends, when we wake up in the morning, we do morning devotion, we eat breakfast, and I'm free the rest of the day. So I go into my room, pick up my tab, internet enabled, no restriction, and I go to all kinds of sites. How did you get to know about it? My classmates in school were talking about it. That's
Tolani,
what I learned.
You can see my gray hair. I don't know how to get to any pornographic site.
It wasn't easy.
I don't know how to. I wouldn't even know where to start. But 11-year-olds are navigating to there and they're actually watching pornography.
Yeah.
And the parents are not aware. I think that's the catch.
Parents, we need to pay attention.
So, in terms of paying attention, Mutolani, first of all, one of the things that you've told me in previous conversations is, and I think Kingsley also mentioned it, parents don't know their children.
No, oftentimes.
How do we reverse that trend?
Create time. Communicate. When you, as a man, if you find a lady attractive and you want to have a relationship with her, what do? You create time. You talk. You have conversation. It's exactly the same way. Don't say, oh, this is my child. We automatically have a relationship. It doesn't work that way. That you are the parent of a child does not make it automatic.
Have a relationship.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you have a relationship.
Yes.
You want to do that by conversation. Create time. It could be a me time. It could be maybe every Saturday evening, 30 minutes. Daughter knows that it's me and daddy time. We're having conversation. Mommy knows that it's me and my son time, 30 minutes. Every day, what do you even say to them? Do you tell them you love them? Do you tell them how much they mean to you? To say, oh, I'm going out. I want to ensure that you guys are okay. If you have anything, be open enough to have this communication. Talk to them. I work with a team of teenagers during the summer holiday, and I was asking them, I told them, how many of you think you have a relationship with your parents? And they all said no. How many of you, your parents think that you have a relationship with them? And they all said yes. Our parents assume that we have a relationship, but we don't have a relationship. Oftentimes when I want to communicate to my mom about something or my dad, they're always busy doing something. Even when it looks like they're listening, they're on their phone. So you know that they're really not listening. And when it looks like they're listening, you don't understand what you're saying, because really, do we actually listen to understand our children? Or we're listening so that it doesn't look like, oh, I'm not listening to my child. And those children can see. And if they feel like there is someone out there who loves them more than you do, they will talk to that person. And it could be, look, if you're unlucky and it's a friend in school who has learned all kinds of things, and then they begin to learn and pick up behaviors from them. So when parents say, oh, my child, but I raised you up well. How well do you think you have raised up that child? That you think that you're a godly family doesn't mean that you automatically raise a godly child if you are not being intentional about it. So parenting really is about intentionality. Are you scripting your child for success, or you're just hoping that my child will grow up and will, boom, one day be a good citizen? It doesn't happen that way.
Okay, still on that, you've and we've heard this over and over again. Children saying, my mommy doesn't understand, or my daddy doesn't understand. What in the universe does that mean? We're speaking the same English.
Do you understand the personality of your child, first of all? Let's start from there. Every child has a personality. Do you understand? I usually will liken a child to a seed. If you have 3 kids, it could be a maize seed. One of them could be a rice seed. Another could be a cocoa seed. If your first child is cocoa seed, you know how long it takes for cocoa to even grow? Maybe 5 to 6 years. Do you know how long it takes for a rice seed to grow? Maybe like 6 months. And it requires a specific environment to grow. Your last child can then be the maize. That takes about 3 months. Now, if you're not observant, if you're not paying attention, if you're not looking at the seed you have in your hand to say, what kind of child do I have? You will treat all the 3 seeds, all your 3 children, exactly the same way. And you won't get the same result. And based on who that child is, that determines a lot of things. The environment, how you bring them up. You can't say, oh, I love clay soil, and then decide to go and plant your rice seed or your maize seed on a clay soil because you like it, which is usually what parents do. You're not raising your child according to how the child should be raised, based on the characteristics, what of things that you have observed about that child. Rather, you're just raising maybe because you've seen someone who is planting a particular seed in the soil and you just feel, oh, that must be it, and you're doing exactly the same thing. You can't get the same result. So first of all, you want to understand, what kind of child do I have? There's some kind of children, we call them the intimidating homer. If you shout on that child, the child is likely going to stand back and, respond back to you. If you tell the child, stand up from there and sit here, the child wants to ask you, Mommy, why do I have to move from there? You say, oh, you're rude. The child, no, the child is a natural leader. The child wants to understand. You need to give him facts and figure as to why he needs to do what he is doing. But there's some other children, you tell them to move. They don't want trouble. They're the peacemaker. We call them the dependable truck. They just stand up and move. They don't want mommy's trouble. So understanding the different personality of your children even helps you understand how to handle them. Because parenting really is about scripting, and it has to be intentional. But if you're not observing, how then can you know how to raise a child that you don't understand?
I'm just trying to imagine my daddy saying, good day. And I saying, why?
You receive right hand of fellowship.
6 strokes.
6 strokes. My daddy will just say, Bossy Kona. Once you hear that, just hold your 2 ears and
start.
Koma kunu komaga. And nobody needs to tell you. But the children of today are different. There is no doubt about it.
Yep.
But I am actually very concerned about something. And you've talked about intentional parenting.
Yeah.
I'd like you to decrypt that a bit. My challenge, and I've talked about this at some other opportunities that I had, is that the future is in jeopardy.
Yes, sir.
If parents are not intentional to raise children in a particular way, the nation's leadership, whatever is in jeopardy, the future itself is in jeopardy. And I know that it's not just a Nigerian thing, it's a global thing. So what are the things to look out for? Is there a model that people can say, okay, these children usually go this way? There are those who have talked about the Southeastern model of apprenticeship. You can expect that this child from this place is going to get to that. Is that a model? I don't know. Is there something that people can say, okay, if we do it this way, we can predict what's going to come
outcome?
Yeah. Parenting is scripting. If we say that...
Did you say scripting?
Yes.
This is a script.
Right? Yes.
So what does that mean?
Parenting can be scripted. And this, I'm going to take it from 2 angles. The family is a production factory of the society. And the citizens that we see are all a product of a family. Meaning that the Nigeria that we want to see has to start from every family. So it has to be, and it has to come from parenting. It means that if we want a better future for our world, we all need to be intentional with the kind of children that we're raising. That's one angle. And when I say scripting, I mean that if evil can be scripted, then it means good can also be scripted. If you look at the suicide bombers, they have schools where they train these children. You know, if they can do that, you can convince a child to blow up himself. You can script another child to do good. I remember that I watched an interview of the mother of Elon Musk, Maya, and she said something. Someone was asking her and said, what if, your son is controlling a lot of things in the world right now and all, and what if he turns evil? She said, no, I didn't groom him that way. She said it with all authority to say, I know what I have done. He lacks the capacity to do evil. I only groomed him to be able to do good for the world. So the question is, what kind of future do we want? What kind of world do we want? We can do that. We can be intentional about the scripting.
That raises all kinds of questions in my mind because you get families where one child is a priest, the other one is an armed robber. It is the same woman who scripted their upbringing, so to speak, and brought them up, probably the same way. So how come one is a priest and the other one is an armed robber, is a killer?
Would you say it was scripted? Was the scripting intentional? The one who decided to be a priest, was it that the mother was the one who scripted the child to be that? I've seen families where there's domestic violence in the house. The father beats the mother. One child decides to say, I'm never going to do this to another woman. Another child says, well, this looks like a template. The peculiarity of the children. They are not, three things makes up every individual. The environment in which you grow up, the upbringing itself, and some significant emotional experiences. And these differ with different individuals. Like I said, a typical intimidating normal, different things happen to them. They just shove it off. They're the one who are quickly to move. But there's something happened, they hold on to it, they brood on it for so long, it affects them, their whole physique, everything about them is affected. So two kids growing up in the same environment, experiencing the same thing, deciding to do differently because their interpretation of what happened is different. So would we say that their mother, one turning out to be a thief or the other turning out to be a priest, was that an intentionality in the scripting? Or are you even scripting them exactly the same way, understanding that they're not the same?
Okay.
So the peculiarity of each child needs to be considered in scripting the child.
Okay, going by the dictum that you can't give what you don't have.
Exactly.
How do we help parents who don't have it?
Learn.
To give it.
Learn. When you want to get married, you're particular about my marriage working. You're going for marriage counseling to say, oh, let's do some 3 weeks, some 3 months, because we want to learn how to make this work. How often do we go to learn about parenting? Because we feel like, oh, just now, our parent didn't go to school to learn how to parent. Yeah. So the same way you're paying attention to, I want to, move in my career, I want to be a better professional, and you take learning, it's the same way you need to learn parenting. It has to be learned. You can't just say that, oh, I've learned how my parent did it, and no.
Is there a place for the school or the partnership with teachers? Because I tried to crunch some numbers. I'm not good at maths, but I could do that one. Children tend to spend longer hours, more time in the school with their teachers than in most cases with their parents
at home
in urban Nigeria, because parents go to work. You already said it. So is there a role, a kind of partnership that can be worked out between teachers and the parents?
Yes.
Without necessarily saying the teachers will now parent my child.
No. Teachers now need to understand that it's a community thing now. We need to go back to community parenting. That's simply what we're saying. You can, the same way it worked those days where everybody was helping everybody parent a child. As a school, as a teacher, you cannot, just say, I'm doing my parts. I'm just going to teach the child physics, chemistry, and all the subjects and let the parents parent. if we truly want to change the world, if we really want to see change in the future, and it would affect your own child. I keep saying it to everyone. No child is safe until every child is safe. Don't say, I'm doing so well with my own kids. Let them raise their own. Their own would affect your own. Like I say, the person who failed to raise his own kids and the child grows up to be armed robber, they will all be in traffic. They will come to your house. But so you want to collaborate with parents as teachers. Everybody, it has to be a community thing. We would all come together and work. It's in the best interest of the child. Whether the parents have said, I'm not saying, oh, then Lord, I'm not, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there has to be collaboration. So while you're teaching the child in school, you're also understanding that I am also parenting this child. So how would you do it? Are you teaching the child to trample on the esteem of the child? Do you call the child names? So this child is in your class, is maybe very playful, and you call the child destructive, or just call the child a negative name. It could affect the esteem of that child. So how well as teachers are you collaborating with parents to ensure that the quality of citizens that we have in the future is solid? It's everybody's job. Everybody needs to come together and begin to co-parent the child.
Questions. We have more questions. Okay.
That's difficult because families are more insular now than they used to be.
Yeah, than communal.
Even caused by the way we live. Everybody has high fences, as opposed to when the compound just merged into each other. Maybe you had just picket fences or just plants as your fences, so that when little mister is going to do some bad thing, he walks past the neighbor's house and the neighbor sees him going. But now the neighbor cannot see him going. Well, because they all have high fences.
So yes, I understand the fact that everybody's just in their own space and all, but a family of say 5 or 10 can come together and say that let's come together and say this is our own clan or our own village, our own community, where everyone within this clan can parent my child. So would look for families with similar values, similar visions, to say, oh, what are the values that you promote as a family? What are the values that you promote as a family? We come together and then begin to co-parent. So when I'm not available, I am certain that when you're with my children, you share similar values and you would do exactly what I would have done. And so I'm also looking out for your children. I could be the one coaching or mentoring your child, and our children can also be friends. Because, of course, oftentimes, while most of these children misbehave, is they want to belong to some clan. So this is who we are. So every family and every clan needs to say, this is who we are, this is what you're known for. For me as a person, growing up as a child, my father would always tell me, we're not cowards. So in the face of trouble, when I hear this all the time, I remind myself that I am a daughter of Abi. We're not cowards. So all of this has to be embedded in every child. And this will also build resilience. When they go out there in the face of trouble, they are reminded of who they are. Because every child would misbehave when they don't know who they are.
Madam,
they would also misbehave when they're forgotten.
We have crossed our line in this conversation. But, every time we have this kind of conversation, we say part one.
We never have enough time.
Well, we have to thank you very much for this eye-opening conversation. Mutala Nifalabi is a family and teen coach. He's also CEO, Praise Forward International. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. We're back right after now for
the home stretch.
The home stretch. Just stay with us.